My F26, ex-fiancé, M29, told me our dog died. 9 months later, my friend found her alive at his house. I was with my ex-fiancé for 7 years. We lived together, had pets together, and were planning a wedding. Invitations were sent, deposits were paid, dress bought, etc. The relationship became increasingly unhealthy and controlling, especially toward the end. Arguments escalated badly. There was a lot of yelling, belittling, and manipulation, and eventually I canceled the wedding and moved out pretty abruptly. I ended up moving to another state and rebuilding my life. One of the hardest parts of leaving was our dog, Luna. We adopted her from a shelter in 2020, and I had her for 6 years. She was a 90 lb Great Pyrenees and was basically my baby. I worked from home for about 3 years, so my entire day revolved around her. I also got really into hiking and took her all over the place with me. I absolutely adored this dog. When I left, I couldn't take the pets with me because I was moving back in with parents. Luna stayed with my ex. Last fall, about 2 weeks after the date our wedding was supposed to happen, my ex contacted me and told me Luna had died. This wasn't a vague message. He told me she had cancer, described her condition and treatment situation, and told me she had been euthanized. He also told me he had put her ashes in an urn above his fireplace. I cried over her. I looked at old pictures and videos knowing I'd never see her again. I told my family and friends she had died. I went on dates where people asked whether I had pets, and I said no and explained that my dog had passed away. Except apparently she didn't. I have mutual friends with my ex. One of my friends and her boyfriend were recently in the area where he lives, and because there had apparently been some suspicion about whether Luna was actually dead, they went to his house. Luna was there, alive and healthy. She's been alive the whole time. He lied about the whole thing. About her having cancer, putting her down. He lied about putting her ashes in an urn above the fireplace. So now I am sitting here trying to process the fact that my dog has been alive this entire time. I'm obviously incredibly happy she's alive. I loved this dog so much that finding out I might actually get to see her again feels almost impossible to comprehend. But I'm also furious and honestly disgusted. I spent 9 months grieving an animal who wasn't dead. This man watched me leave a 7-year relationship, lose my home and pets, cancel our wedding, move states, and rebuild my life. Then apparently decided to manufacture the death of my dog. And now I really want to see her, but I'm not sure what to do. I don't want a relationship with my ex. I don't want a confrontation or some big discussion about why he did this. After everything that happened during our relationship and breakup, I genuinely don't want him back in my life. My friends and family are horrified. I'm still mostly in shock. Has anyone dealt with anything remotely like this? Would you try to arrange a visit through a third party? Or would you leave it alone to avoid reopening contact with an abusive ex? My partner, 30M, and I, 31F, just found out he got someone pregnant right before we officially started dating. Where do I go from here? My partner and I met in December 2025 and went on our first date on NYE. We clicked instantly and have the same views on all the important stuff: religion, politics, life goals, not wanting children, etc. Our communication was the healthiest I've ever experienced. We talked through anything and everything that came up, big or small, which was an entirely new experience for me after a couple unhealthy, codependent relationships I'd been in the past. However, due to my tendency toward codependence and his mental health at the time, unrelated to us, just a meds issue, by March it became clear that the healthiest way forward was for us to take a step back and take some of the pressure off each other so we could focus on ourselves. We agreed to continue our relationship platonically, with no strings attached and no promises to wait for the other to be ready. If we met someone else during this time, there would be no hard feelings. Little did we know that one dumb decision during this time would end up changing the course of everything. After 3 months, now June, of therapy, self-reflection, meds adjustments, and occasional coffee chats, it became clear that the feelings we had for each other weren't going anywhere, and more importantly, we were both in a much better place to be a good partner for each other. So, we decided to try it again, this time taking each day at a time. No pressure, just enjoying each other's company and going on adventures together. Since then, the last 2 months have been pure joy. Going on day trips every couple weekends, cooking together, going through a list of movies we wanted to show the other. It was everything we wanted it to be in the beginning and more. We just started using we instead of I when talking about the future, and I had even started wondering when one of us would slip and say the L word. So you can imagine my shock when I get a call from him at 11:00 p.m. while he's at work, telling me that he just learned he's going to be a dad. After a good 10 seconds of stunned silence, my first question was how. He explained that during the 3 months we were platonic, May-ish, his friends set him up with one of their friends. They went on a few dates over the course of 3 weeks, but he ended things because they didn't have much in common. He said that he was drunk the 2 times they slept together, and she had told him at the time that she was infertile, never conceived with multiple past partners despite never using contraceptives. Apparently this was either a lie or he has super sperm or something, because she is 3 months pregnant now, she's keeping it, and she claims it's his. I won't get into all the questions I had for him. If you're thinking it, I've already asked it. And because he is who he is, he answered every single one of them, taking full responsibility without a shred of defensive. My 23F boyfriend, 32M, called me entitled and told me to piss off forever, and has blocked me after I said I was tired following a flight. How do I deal with this? My boyfriend, 32M, and I, 23F, have been together almost 3 years. He lives about a 15-minute drive away. We also share a dog, but he lives with me. He loves driving. I don't drive, so I normally get the train to him and genuinely don't mind. We'd had a big argument before I went away, see comments for context, so hadn't seen each other in almost a month. Today I was up from 6 a.m. traveling home from France. He knew this and asked me to come over that afternoon. I was excited to see him and already had my train ticket booked. We agreed on 4 p.m. and I replied, okay. 10 minutes later, he said he was sensing tension. I told him I was fine, just a bit tired. He asked if I wanted him to pick me up instead. I said no, the train wasn't my preferred option because I was tired, but it was fine and I already had my ticket. He then said he'd pick me up, drop me off, and asked what I wanted for dinner. I felt bad, declined the lift again. I knew his offer for a lift was sarcastic and not a genuine offer, which turned out to be true, and then I offered to make salmon for us, to which he never replied on that point. He replied, I can be taxi man, chef, and everything else you need. I asked if that was sarcastic, and he confirmed it was. It escalated from there. He said he could smell the sense of entitlement, that he wasn't my personal footman, and predicted I'd arrive pissed off and grouchy, and take my mood out on him. I kept trying to explain that I hadn't asked him to do anything, and was simply saying I felt a bit tired because he'd asked why I seemed off. On the phone afterwards, he explained that he thinks I take what he does for me for granted, have expectations of him, and that he's therefore withdrawing things like lifts. He also said I constantly complain about being tired, bring negative energy, and should either come with the right attitude or not come. He said that if he were tired, he'd simply cancel rather than take it out on someone. I mentioned 2 recent occasions where he'd been nasty to me and afterwards said he was tired and should have canceled. He mocked me for having a database in my head, said I sounded like a 13-year-old girl, and eventually told me to piss off forever. He has now blocked me. I know repeatedly trying to explain myself once the argument escalated didn't help, and I'm specifically trying to understand how I could handle this differently. Update, he unblocked me to ask if I can act normally, then asked me to go out again. When I said no, he said, I've offered you the opportunity to put it to rest and do our original plan, and you just cross-examine everything I say, and then said do us all a favor and just shut up then. He eventually said he was tired of wasting his time on me and that we were finished. We agreed to return each other things, were broken up and unblocked. AITAH for planning to move out when our lease ends, even though my sister says it will leave her and her daughter homeless. I 30F live with my sister, 27F, and her 5-year-old daughter. We split the major household expenses. Our lease doesn't end until next year, but I've decided I don't want to renew another lease together. My sister is extremely upset about this. She says I'm selfish, that I'm going to leave her and her daughter homeless, and that I'll be setting my niece up for failure because she may have to move after starting kindergarten. I'm not breaking our lease or suddenly leaving. She has close to a year to prepare. The issue is that she seems to assume I'm obligated to continue living with her indefinitely because she currently can't afford our household by herself. She makes around $14 an hour full-time. I've encouraged her to look into better-paying jobs she may qualify for with her GED, including 911 dispatch, corrections, government city positions, etc. She says she likes her current manager and doesn't really want to look elsewhere. I've also suggested finding another roommate. Her daughter's father currently gives her around $400 a month informally, and as far as I know, she has never pursued a formal child support arrangement. I've suggested looking into that as well. She doesn't want to. But honestly, money isn't even the primary reason I want separate households. I feel like I've gradually become less of a sister roommate and more like a second adult responsible for making her life function. She frequently asks me to do things because she claims she can't do them or doesn't know how. When I refuse, she usually manages to do the exact same thing perfectly fine herself. It has happened enough that it feels like she defaults to getting me to handle things because it's easier than figuring them out herself. She also expects me to clean up after her pets. Her cat throws up. She tells me to clean it. Her dog pees in the hallway. Apparently I should clean that too. Her explanation has frequently been that she works and I'm home. But I've been finishing my bachelor's degree, applying and interviewing for professional jobs, and preparing to start graduate school. I also have my own responsibilities and pets. There are constant double standards over personal belongings too. She has gone into my bathroom and used my deodorant without asking because she didn't want to buy her own. She expects things I purchase to be shared. She eats in my car without asking. Today we took our cats to a vet clinic in her car. I started eating something and she immediately said, "You're disrespectful. I didn't tell you that you could eat in my car." Meanwhile, she regularly eats in mine without asking. She also expects us to have family dinners. If I say I'm not hungry or don't feel like cooking, she'll tell me that her daughter needs to eat and that I need to sit down and have dinner with them. Obviously, my niece needs dinner, but I'm her aunt, I'm not her parent, and I'm my sister's sister, not her spouse. There's also a lot of yelling. My sister has told me to shut the fuck up in our own home, and when I don't do what she wants, I'm frequently called selfish or disrespectful. Recently, the subject of next year came up. When my sister realized I genuinely might not live with her anymore, she became furious. She told me I was going to leave her homeless. She said I was setting her daughter up for failure. She told me she fucking hated me. I mostly stayed quiet because arguing wasn't going anywhere. About 30 minutes later, she suddenly started talking about when we renew our lease and making plans for the next house as though the previous conversation had never happened. I didn't agree. I just stayed quiet again. I've recently finished my bachelor's degree, I'm starting graduate school, and I'm pursuing professional career opportunities. I eventually want to relocate to another state, establish my own household, and build a life somewhere I actually want to stay long-term. I don't want to structure my career, where I live, or potentially the next several years of my life around keeping my sister's household financially viable. I love my sister and my niece. I don't want either of them homeless, but I also don't think that means I should have to remain my sister's roommate indefinitely. She has almost a year to prepare. She could pursue a higher-paying job, formal child support, another roommate, cheaper housing, or some combination of those things. I want to finish the lease I agreed to, fulfill my financial obligations, and then establish my own household. AITA for deciding that when our lease ends, I'm moving on with my own life, even though my sister says doing so will leave her and my niece homeless, and that I'm selfish for putting my own future first.